Okay. Like that?
Yeah.
So I came here, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, and I gave a brief talk, and now I'm up here again, and it feels great. It feels great to talk. I've been quiet pretty much my whole life, so this is a new venture for me. And it all began with a speaking circle that Annie was giving, and that's how I got introduced to this church. So today's talk is called The Spiritual Entrepreneur, and it came from a magazine that I published recently, and the idea came from that. And when I talk about entrepreneurship, I'm talking about it in terms of grounding an idea into reality. So taking your dreams, your thoughts, your ideas, and making those realities. And so it all begins with, how many of you dream of a better world? How many of you dream of a better society, community, and way of life? How many of you demand an end to all suffering, a realistic approach to unrealistic expectations, and a future built on freedom of expression, as opposed to a world that thrives on suppression? All of you are spiritual entrepreneurs. I'm a what? It's not too often you hear these words put together in one sentence. They seem like they're opposites of each other, but are they really the same? People tend to associate entrepreneurs as motivated business people who have big ideas. These are people who tend to be grounded and well integrated into society. They communicate their ideas clearly, are usually extroverted, and they network like no one else's business. On the contrary, to be spiritual is often thought to be more introverted and idealistic. So get out of your tomatoes now, Rod. A spiritual person typically wants to remove boundaries to the point of no longer being on the earth plane. They have a tendency to communicate their ideas poorly because they view everyone as though we all have the same mind, so there's no need to communicate. Right? So I'm a what? A spiritual entrepreneur. So in order to fully comprehend this label, we need to dive into the realm of boundaries. Boundaries. Are they healthy or are they a hindrance? Some people hate them, some people live by them, and some people don't understand them. What we all have in common, though, is that we all need them. Boundaries are an intimate part of what makes us unique. They hold us to the ground, give us a body, and they provide an expression for our soul to experience. You might even say that we intentionally create our own boundaries in order to give our soul something to flow into or play within. However, what happens when the boundaries we created are crossed? How dare someone cross our boundaries? What were they thinking? The integration of the infinite and the finite is an idea that has been explored for many years. Religion teachings are mostly infinite. In other words, your soul survives after death. The teachings of science are mostly finite. In other words, nothing lasts forever. Is one ideology better than the other? Or is the barb of truth contained in the boundary between science and religion, the merging of the infinite with the finite? In engineering, designs are created to last a certain amount of years, and a warranty is made based on this understanding. If you're an entrepreneur, your business will last only as long as the stability of its foundation. The same holds true if you're an architect constructing a house. However, think about the pyramids. Is it possible to create a foundation to last a lifetime? What about 2? Or 3? Or 300? Our minds typically can't fathom how something could last this long because we're out of balance. When we're in balance, we're capable of great success because we are utilizing both sides of our brain. We are combining the yin and the yang energies. We are using our full potential as a human being, as a soul, as a purified expression of who we are in its entirety. We become unstoppable. Much like entrepreneurship and spirituality, the finite and the infinite are inseparable. It's not a matter of duality, rather it's a matter of union. People feel discomfort because they try to be all of one or the other. They try to either be completely grounded or they're not grounded at all, and they live with the fairies. neither of which is good or bad, but both of which are required to have an experience. The will of Source Creator wants to expand. And we know this because the will of Source is in each and every person. You would not be on this earth, and the universe would not be expanding if the will of Source Creator did not want to expand. We are all separate pieces of the same puzzle. But on the flip side of every puzzle piece is a picture of the whole puzzle. We imagine we are separate to give us the feeling of being whole. We have the instructions on the back of our puzzle piece on how to orient ourselves in order to come together. But we also have the desire to remain a separate puzzle piece to maintain our personality and our individual identity. After all, don't you want your freedom? The only question is, how free do you want to be? How large do you want your boundary to be? After we unite the human race, we have simply expanded our boundary, and now it's a matter of aliens and humans as opposed to blacks and whites. So is our next mission to unite all humans and aliens in our universe? Then what? Another universe? Then what? All of the multiverses? When do we stop expanding these boundaries? Perhaps this question can only be answered when the will of Source Creation stops telling us to expand. But for now, let's unite this world and bring humanity together as separate pieces of the same puzzle. So this brings me back to what it means to be a spiritual entrepreneur. A spiritual entrepreneur is someone who is capable of creating and removing boundaries when they want to. In other words, they're closely aligned with Source Creator, the intent of the whole, the group mind. Questions such as, how can we bring unity to the world and still maintain our identity? How can we be different, yet still be the same? A spiritual entrepreneur is capable of viewing the world as a whole, while simultaneously seeing all of the intricate workings behind the scenes. They're able to ground their thoughts into reality because they're merging the infinite mind with the finite. They're able to communicate their thoughts of spirituality because they have integration. A lack of integration is when you say something and don't do it, when you feel something and can't communicate it, when you have an idea and can't manifest it. With a lack of integration, you will have trouble processing information, comprehending a situation, or grounding the communication. This can all be summarized by not merging the infinite with the finite, or the spiritual with the business, or the dream with the reality. The way we integrate something, we flip on and off the light switch faster and faster and faster. In other words, we traverse the boundary between where we want to go and where we are, repeatedly and increasingly faster until the two are merged together as one. The same holds true for the human race. The more often we travel between countries back and forth, then the less the boundary between countries is apparent. However, the boundary was never removed, but simply expanded to encompass a larger whole. Perhaps it became the world instead of individual countries. Our goal as spiritual entrepreneurs is to integrate ourselves into society, yet remain wild in our beliefs. To be a spiritual entrepreneur is to flow with your boundaries. It's to be fully aware of contracting and expanding boundaries. Contracting boundaries make you feel really, really, really small. You put up so many walls to the outside world that you no longer feel safe no matter what you do. Because everything you do is pushing against a boundary you created for yourself. If you do not willingly expand that boundary, then you will be afraid. The will of Source desires only one thing, and that is balance. If you feel unbalanced by contracting your boundaries, then expand them. If you feel you've expanded too far, then take a step back. Boundaries are what give perspective, an artistic eye, depth perception, a new dimension, another reality. And it's a result of merging the thoughts, or the infinite mind, or your dream, with a line or a dot on a piece of paper, a finite construct. Boundaries are good, but it's not the quantity of boundaries we need to determine for ourselves, since there are an infinite number of both large and small, but rather it's the ability to fluctuate our boundaries according to what feels balanced for us. If you feel you're able to open your boundaries to let the love of your life in, then do so. If not, then don't. If you want to live with the fairies, then live with the fairies, and come home and live with engineers, and go to work and live with peacemakers, and go to the bar and hang with friends, go to Colorado by yourself and snowboarding. This is what life is all about. Pushing the boundaries we intentionally created so we have the experience of doing the impossible. crossing the very boundaries we put in place, and then we call it a spiritual awakening when we cross them. This is the essence of what it means to be a spiritual entrepreneur. These are people who want to truly feel life in all forms. These are open-minded men and women who have integrity along with a kind and loving heart. These are people who want to explore, unite, travel, network, imagine, be idealistic, ground their communication, be of service and expand their business, create a new world, accept everyone, expand the mind, express their truth, channel angels, hold no judgment, see no right or wrong, good or bad, and while at the same time come home to their own identity, their own individual truth. To have a business or to be of service to one another and to be spiritual is to create tangible forms of union. It's to see unity in every tangible form you create. It's to work towards fulfilling the self, while simultaneously working towards fulfilling the group mind. In other words, it is true fulfillment. Fulfilling the needs of both polarities in every walk of life, the infinite and the finite. Is to create something you can hold in your hands that came from the group mind. So as a spiritual entrepreneur and engineer, I want to speak about solutions. As an engineer, I would lose my job if I saw a problem in the workplace and I did nothing to fix it. That's because my boss doesn't want to hear about problems. My boss wants to hear about solutions. Are we not all here on a mission? Are we not all here to see our life purpose through to completion? Are we not all here to find happiness? To be of service to a higher power? To discover our authentic self? Are we not all here for the same purpose of self-discovery? To turn our dreams into realities? Let us rise up and revel in the fact that everything you are is everything I am. It's not the system that is corrupt. Rather, it's a mindset within the system that says we must destroy to survive. Is this not absurd? If a war is waged on the inside, doctors would call it cancer. If a war is waged on the outside, politicians would call it profit. We mustn't insist upon the destruction of the current system, for it's within the mindset of destruction we wish to transform. Rather than destroy, we must create. And as spiritual entrepreneurs, create we shall. Some people may ask, how can one man make a difference? To them I say, how can 1 million men stand idle? Wisdom is what freed me of the shackles of self-doubt. Wisdom is what freed me of the pain of feeling responsible for someone else's happiness. Wisdom is what freed me of the walls of society, the left-brained doctors and engineers, the bedridden pain of expressing myself. And wisdom is what gave rise to the words you hear me speak, the voice that echoes equality and the creation of my heart's desire. It's this wisdom that arrived at the essence of life. The essence of life is about relations. How do you relate to the world around you? You get inspired when you read a story about someone because you can relate to them. Growth does not come easy, especially when society tries to standardize everyone, and it does not always recognize that we're all unique individuals having unique experiences. Self-discovery doesn't come easy, though. Self-discovery comes with a plethora of growing pains. One way of overcoming these growing pains is by reading inspirational stories of how people overcame the difficulties of life. Not one single person has lived life without falling or failing. We've all been somewhere at some time when we wish we were someplace else. But how did we overcome whatever obstacle we faced? We must look up to those not with the greatest of all gifts, but rather the ones who make us feel like we are the greatest of all gifts. We're all unique individuals who have unique skills to bring to the world. The people you look up to as a leader or a teacher are no different than you are. Every single person serves an important role, and there is no gift that is any better or any less than any other gift. The purpose of all gifts is to share them, express them, and make them known to the world. Humanity has a dark history and a dark present, but that does not mean it has to have a dark future. We are creators of our entire reality. We are living testimony of survival against all opposition. We are in the midst of chaos and unrest, but we shall rise from the ashes of a fallen world and survive this test. Inspiring stories give us hope that the impossible is truly possible. but many of these stories remain untold. Some people are still lost in someone else's story, and they need to see how it's possible to move through these difficult times. The magazine I have brought forth and published is my attempt to help people relate to someone going through a similar situation in their life, while at the same time visually showing them how we are all connected. Regardless of whether or not you're aware of it, you have made an impact on the entire world. It's time now to bring that awareness home and unite humanity by visually showing how your personal journey has a planetary effect. I've got brochures if you want to see and learn more about that. And with that said, it's now open mic time. Laura?